Ozzy Osbourne secretly walks into his own restaurant. Stops cold when he hears a server crying. He walked into his own restaurant expecting a quiet dinner. But when Ozzy Osbourne heard a young server crying in the back room, he froze. What he discovered next, no fan will ever forget. Backhand Index Pointing Right subscribe to Voices of Darkness for more real emotional legends like Ozzy. Backhand Index Pointing Right like and share this video with your friends. Backhand Index Pointing Right, if you love Ozzy Osbourne, prove it now. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers at a quiet night that wasn't meant to be quiet. Ozzy Osbourne had always been unpredictable, but that night he surprised even himself. It was a cold December evening in Los Angeles, and instead of attending a private party with other rock legends, Ozzy simply slipped away. No security, no cameras, no entourage, just a long black coat, a pair of dark round glasses, and it pulled over his head. He wanted one thing: silence. His private restaurant, Ozfest Grill, was only a few blocks away. Usually, he visited through the VIP entrance and back, but tonight he wanted to enter through the regular door like any ordinary customer. Maybe nostalgia brought him there. Maybe loneliness. Or maybe a feeling he couldn't explain. The night breeze carried the faint sound of traffic, a distant siren, and the soft crackle of holiday lights hanging across the street. Ozzy stood outside the glowing glass door, took a deep breath, and whispered to himself, "Just a quiet dinner." But fate had a very different plan. He pushed open the door. Warm light spilled out. The scent of grilled steaks, roasted garlic, fresh bread, and cinnamon butter filled the air. Customers chatted softly, unaware that their rock legend, had just walked in quietly. Ozzy kept his head lowered. Nobody noticed. And for a moment, he smiled. Peace. Finally, that he walked toward the corner booth, and then he heard a sound that didn't belong in any restaurant. A sound that cut through music, laughter, and noise. Someone was crying, not just a sniffle, not just a quiet tear, but a broken, shaking, muffled sob coming from the employee hallway. Ozzy stopped walking. His hand froze on the booth. His head lifted slightly. His eyes narrowed behind his glasses. What was that? And just like that, the quiet night was gone. Point two. The crying behind the door. Ozzy turned toward the small corridor that led to the kitchen. The light was dim there, shadows stretching along the tile floor. Customers didn't notice him slowly drifting toward it, but one person did. Maria, the hostess, a woman in her late 50s with warm eyes and silver hair braided neatly behind her head. She had worked there since the day the restaurant opened. She recognized Ozzy instantly, but she gasped silently and raised a finger to her lips, respecting his wish for privacy. But Ozzy pointed his head toward the corridor. "You hear that?" he whispered. Maria nodded, concerned. "Yes, that's Emily." "Who's Emily?" "One of the servers. Sweet girl. Hard-working. Never seen her cry. Not like this." Ozzy frowned. Something twisted inside him. Something heavy. Something old. Something familiar. The sound of someone's pain always hit him harder than any screaming guitar. He stepped past the hostess and entered the dim hallway. The crying grew clearer, choked breaths, shaking hands. Soft pleas only she could understand. Ozzy followed it until he stood before a partially open door. The small employee break room. Through the crack, he could see her, a young server, hardly 19 years old, sitting on the floor with her knees pulled to her chest. Her apron was still on, her black hair messy from stress, her eyes red and swollen. Next to her on the ground, a shattered phone. Beside that, an eviction notice, and in her hand her father's hospital bracelet. Ozzy's heart dropped. This wasn't restaurant stress. This wasn't a bad customer. This wasn't some small emotional moment. This was real pain, heavy pain, life-crushing pain. The kind he recognized instantly, the kind he'd lived through. He stepped forward. The floor creaked softly. The girl froze. Her crying stopped instantly. She wiped her face quickly and whispered, Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll get back to work. Please don't fire me." Ozzy blinked. Fire her? For crying? For falling apart alone on a cold tile floor. Something inside him snapped. He pushed the door fully open. And for the first time, Emily looked up. Her breath caught. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Oh, Ozzy Osbourne." 3. Why are you crying, love? Emily tried to stand but stumbled. Ozzy immediately reached out a hand. Hey, easy. Sit down, love. She hesitated, then sat, and started crying again, quietly this time, as if she was embarrassed. Ozzy slowly lowered himself on the floor beside her, old bones protesting, joints cracking slightly. But he didn't care that he sat beside her, as if she were family. He didn't speak for several seconds. He just placed one hand gently on her back and let her breathe. When she calmed slightly, he whispered, "Tell me why you're crying." Emily shook her head. "I shouldn't say." You're you." "Yeah, and you're you," Ozzy said. "And right now you need someone to listen." She covered her face, and then she broke. "My dad, HE's in the hospital again. They said they need more payments. I used all my savings. I'm already behind on rent. They're kicking me out on Friday. And my phone broke. And..." She swallowed hard. "I can't do it anymore. I can't." Ozzy felt something deep in his chest. A dark, painful memory. Sharon holding him through nights of fear. Times he couldn't pay bills before fame. Times he felt worthless. Times he thought he'd lose everything that he took a deep breath. Then quietly asked, "Does your dad know you're fighting this hard for him?" Emily wiped her eyes. He doesn't even know I work here. I told him I'm studying. I didn't want to disappoint him." Ozzy stared at her. The bravery, the innocence, the crushing weight she carried alone, he couldn't handle it. Not tonight. Not ever. Point 4. The manager walks in and makes it worse. Before Ozzy could respond, the break room door swung open again. IT was Craig, the new assistant manager, early 30s, sharp suit, fake smile, and reputation for treating staff poorly. "Emily," he snapped. "Customers are waiting. Cry on your own time," or he stopped. His face went pale. Ozzy turned his head slowly, like a lion deciding whether or not to roar. "Or what?" he asked quietly. Craig swallowed. Hard. "Yes, sir. I didn't know you were here. I was just..." "She's behind on tables and..." Ozzy stood up. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't get angry. He just stepped toward the man until they were inches apart and said, "Don't talk to people like that. Not in my restaurant. Not anywhere." Craig stuttered, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix the way you treat people." Craig's eyes darted around nervously. Ozzy's voice dropped even lower. "Apologize to her. Properly." Craig slowly turned toward Emily. I'm sorry, Emily." "No," Ozzy snapped. "Look her in the eye." Craig swallowed again, then did it. "I'm sorry, Emily." Emily nodded but looked terrified. Ozzy exhaled slowly, then said, "You're going home early. Paid." Emily's eyes widened. What? But no arguments, love. Go breathe." She stood shakily. Ozzy gently placed her phone pieces in her hand and whispered, "I'll fix everything. Trust me." Emily burst into tears again, but this time from relief. 5. A promise Ozzy couldn't walk away from Emily left the room. Craig backed away like a scared dog. Ozzy stood in the small break room alone, staring at the eviction notice left on the floor. His jaw tightened. His heart pounded. He whispered to himself, "No kid should go through this, not on my watch." He picked up the torn eviction notice, folded it, and placed it carefully in his coat pocket. Then he whispered, "I'm not leaving. Not tonight. Not till she's safe." And with that, the quiet night was officially over. Ozzy Osbourne had a mission, and when Ozzy had a mission, nothing on earth could stop him. Point 1. The quiet decision that would change Emily's life. Ozzy stood alone in the break room long after Emily left. The light buzzed faintly above him, casting a tired glow across the floor. In his hand, he still held the folded eviction notice, a simple paper with an ugly threat. But to him, it wasn't paper. IT was a memory, a mirror, the flashback to nights when he'd been desperate, homeless, helpless, addicted, broken, lost. He clenched the notice tightly. "No kid deserves this," he whispered again, voice shaking slightly. He walked out into the busy dining room with a new purpose, not one of fame, not one of image, but one of protection. People glanced at him now, finally noticing who he was. A couple whispered. Someone gasped softly. A teenage fan nearly dropped her drink. But Ozzy didn't care. He wasn't there to be a celebrity. He was there to be human. Point two. Ozzy calls a private meeting, and the staff panics. Maria, the season hostess, approached nervously. Ozzy, are you all right? No, he replied honestly. And that's why I need all the staff in the kitchen. Now. Maria blinked. All the staff? Everyone. Within minutes, cooks, servers, dishwashers, bartenders, everyone gathered in the kitchen, unsure whether this was a blessing or a disaster. Whispers flew. Is someone getting fired? Did something happen? Oh no, did a customer complain? Is this about that new manager? Why does he look so serious? Ozzy stepped in front of them and no microphone, no stage lights, no music, just a man with a mission. He pulled the eviction notice from his pocket. This belongs to Emily. She's in trouble. Real trouble. The room fell silent. Even the sound of sizzling pan seemed to pause. Ozzy continued, voice deep and steady. She's taking care of her sick father. She's working herself to the bone. And she's do it alone. A server whispered, I knew something was wrong. She's been so tired lately. A cook nodded. She always stays late. Never complains. Ozzy held up the eviction notice. And she's getting kicked out this Friday. The shock hit the room like a wave. Someone gasped. Someone cursed under their breath. Someone covered their mouth with tears forming. Ozzy took a step forward. No family should go through this, not while working for me. And with that, everything changed. Point three. The manager tries to interrupt. Bad move, Craig. The assistant manager who had yelled at Emily earlier stepped forward with fake confidence. Well, sir, we can maybe reduce our hours to... Ozzy's head snapped toward him like a wolf turning toward prey. Reduce, he repeated slowly. Craig swallowed. Why, yes, if she's stressed, we can... Ozzy stepped closer. Are you out of your mind? Craig froze. This girl is barely surviving, and you want to take hours away from her? I didn't mean, I just thought... You didn't think at all. The staff stared. Wide-eyed. Someone in the back whispered, He's going to get fired for sure. Ozzy leaned closer. You ever talk to her or anyone the way you did earlier, you won't step foot in any restaurant again, not even as a customer. Craig nodded quickly. A small YSer slipped out. Ozzy stepped away, calming himself with breath, then said, We fix this. Together. For a plan, no one expected. Ozzy reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet. The staff stared. Ozzy, what are you doing? Maria asked. He held up his black card. This pays. Her. Rent. Gasps filled the room. But, sir, she'll never accept. Oh, my God. Ozzy, are you serious? He cut them off. That's not all. Her dad's medical bills covered. People looked at him like he was glowing. He wasn't finished. And tomorrow morning, we're upgrading the employee health plan. Everyone gets benefits. No more staff going broke trying to live. Cries, whispers, little claps. Someone sobbed quietly. Ozzy wasn't done yet. And Emily? She's getting a full scholarship. I want her in school. She deserves more than carry-in plates for the rest of her life. Maria burst into tears. Ozzy, God bless you. She's been through so much, but Ozzy shook his head. No, God didn't do this. We did. Humans take care of humans. The room erupted in soft admiration, but then something unexpected happened. The dishwasher, a quiet older man named Frank, stepped forward. Mr. Osbourne, that's incredible. But what if she won't accept your help? She's proud. She never takes money from anyone. Ozzy paused. Oh, she'll accept it, he said softly. How? Frank asked. Ozzy smirked. Because I'm not giving her charity. He placed his hand over his heart. I'm giving her family. 5. Ozzy searches for Emily, but she's gone. The staff clapped softly, emotional. But then Maria said something that froze the room. Ozzy, Emily left. What do you mean she left? She didn't go home. She ran outside crying. She didn't want anyone to see her break down. Ozzy rushed toward the front of the restaurant. The winter air outside hit him hard. Cold, sharp. The streetlights flickered. A bus pulled away from the stop. Emily was nowhere, but something on the sidewalk caught his eye. Her apron. Thrown aside, still stained with the evening's work, Ozzy's heart dropped. Oh, no, no, no. He looked up and down the street. Empty, just a quiet street, a faint breeze, and a girl who disappeared into the night. But Ozzy Osbourne wasn't giving up. Not tonight. Not ever, he whispered to himself. Emily, where did you go? And with that, he started walking into the night, hunting for her, searching like she was his own daughter, searching like he couldn't breathe until she was found. The empty street, the missing girl of the city night was cold and sharp, the kind of cold that bites through clothes and straight into bone. Ozzy Osbourne stood in the middle of the sidewalk, staring at the abandoned apron lying like a wounded flag. Taxis rushed by. A bus rolled past. Pedestrians moved in their own worlds, but to Ozzy, everything was silent. Emily, he whispered. Where'd you go, love? He tightened his coat around himself, glanced left, then right, then began walking, searching every alley, every bench, every shadow. He was 76 years old, but he moved with the determination of a father. He stopped at a street vendor. You seen a young girl? Black apron. Crying? The man shook his head. He stopped at a bus stop. You see a girl get on? About 19, dark hair, shaken. A teenager nodded. Yeah, she took the 42. Toward Eastview Hospital. Ozzy froze. Hospital? His chest tightened. Her father, her only hope, her only family, and she had run to him in her darkest moment. Ozzy whispered. Of course she did. He waved down a cab and climbed inside. Eastview Hospital. Fast. The driver stepped on the gas. The hospital, a quiet, suffering Eastview Hospital, wasn't fancy. The kind of hospital built for people who couldn't afford fancy. The lights flickered. The hallways echoed. The walls smelled of disinfectant and sadness. Ozzy stepped out of the elevator and walked toward the front desk. The nurse looked up, shocked. Oh, Mr. Osbourne. How? Have you seen a girl named Emily? Came in alone. Crying. Father's in here. The nurse's smile fell instantly. Yes. She ran upstairs. 4th floor. Ozzy nodded silently and walked toward the stairs. He didn't wait for the elevator. He climbed. Slowly, painfully, but with purpose. His breath grew heavy. His knees hurt. But he kept climbing, because someone needed him, and he wasn't going to fail this time. Emily at her father's bedside. He reached room 417 inside. Emily sat beside an old man with pale skin and wires running across his chest. Her head was down. Her hands shook on her lap. Her shoulders trembling as tears fell silently. Ozzy stepped inside quietly. Emily didn't notice. Dad, she whispered. I'm trying so hard, but I'm losing everything. I can't even afford your medicine. I can't afford my rent. I can't even afford a phone. Her voice cracked. I didn't want to disappoint you. The old man slowly opened his eyes, weak but still warm. You could never disappoint me, sweetheart. Ozzy's chest tightened painfully. This wasn't a girl. This was a warrior trapped inside a collapsing world, and no one, in 01, was helping her. Except now him. Ozzy cleared his throat softly. Emily spun around, her eyes widened. Ozzy! What? How did you? He smiled gently. You left your apron outside, love. Even a blind bat like me could follow that trail. She stood abruptly, panicked. I'm sorry I ran out. I couldn't breathe. I had to see my dad. I'll quit the job if you want. I'm really sorry. Quit? Ozzy whispered. Why'd you think that? Because I broke down and because I caused trouble and because I'm not good enough to work at your restaurant. Ozzy blinked slowly, then sat beside her father. Emily, he said softly, you're the best thing in that restaurant. Her breath froze. Ozzy meets her father. The old man looked at Ozzy weakly, eyes squinting. You're Ozzy Osbourne, aren't you? Ozzy chuckled. Not sure some days. But yeah, that's what they call me. The old man smiled faintly. Emily talks about her job. She loves it. She never complains. Not once. Emily wiped her tears. I didn't want to worry you, Dad. Ozzy gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You shouldn't be carrying all this alone, kid. Emily broke again, quietly, painfully. She covered her face, trembling. Ozzy reached out and pulled her into a gentle embrace, the way a father hugs a broken child who doesn't know how to ask for help. Hey, you're not alone anymore. You hear me?" She sobbed into his shoulder. Why are you doing this for me? I'm nobody." Ozzy shook his head. "Don't you ever say that again." Her father looked at Ozzy with tears forming. "Sir, thank you. I've never been able to give her much. Her mother passed so early. She grew up working, sacrificing, hiding her pain. She's stronger than me." Emily wiped her face, embarrassed. "Dad." Ozzy sat back, exhaling. "You raised one hell of a daughter, mate. Be proud of that." Her father smiled faintly. "Wish I could have done more." Ozzy looked him straight in the eyes. "You will?" The father frowned weakly. "What do you mean?" Ozzy leaned closer. "Because I'm going to pay for every damn thing this hospital wants. Medicine, tests, treatment, everything." Emily gasped. "No, Ozzy, please. I can't accept." "You're not accepting charity," he interrupted. "You're accepting family. I promised you that already." Emily's knees buckled and she had to sit. Her father covered his mouth in shock. "Oh, Ozzy, that's too much." "I can't. No arguments," Ozzy said gently. "Let me do this. Let me help her. Let me help you. Don't take that away from me." Emily's father broke into tears, whispering, "Thank you. God bless you, thank you." Ozzy took his hand. "No, don't thank God. Thank your daughter. She's the one worth fighting for." The truth that breaks everything. The doctor entered the room. "Mr. Collins, the test results came back." Emily stood. "Please tell me he's okay." The doctor hesitated. Ozzy stood too, tension rising. The doctor spoke carefully. "His condition is treatable, but the bill is going to be extremely high. Without immediate payment, we can't continue treatment." Emily went pale. Her father closed his eyes. Ozzy stepped forward. "How much?" The doctor named the number. That Emily's jaw dropped. Her father froze. Even the doctor looked ashamed. Ozzy didn't blink. "Okay, I'll pay it now." Emily's eyes filled with shock. Her father whispered, "Why? Why would you do this for us?" Ozzy inhaled deeply and said something he'd never told anyone in years. "Because someone saved me once when I was lost, when I was broken, when I had nothing. And I promised myself, if I ever saw someone in that place, I wouldn't walk away." Emily collapsed into his arms again, sobbing uncontrollably. Her father cried silently. Even the doctor swallowed hard and wiped his eye. Ozzy wasn't a rock god in that moment. He wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't a legend. He was human. And for the first time in a long time, he fell whole. Emily confesses a final truth when things calmed down. Emily sat beside him. "Ozzy, can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone." He nodded. "Of course, love." She looked down, voice trembling. "The reason I work so hard, the reason I never take breaks, the reason I hide my problems," she exhaled shakily, "is because I thought people like you, people with money, people with power, they never cared about people like me." Ozzy's eyes softened. "Emily!" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I thought I was invisible." Ozzy reached forward, lifted her chin gently, and said, "You're not invisible. Not to me, and not to anyone who has a heart." Emily broke again, but this time with relief. Her father whispered, "You saved my daughter tonight." But Ozzy shook his head. "No, she saved me." They both stared at him, confused. Ozzy continued, "Fame can make you forget what really matters. You reminded me." Emily covered her mouth, overwhelmed. The final scene, a truth that changes her life. Ozzy stood, stretched his back, and said, "All right, pack your things. You're moving." Emily blinked. "W what?" "You're moving into the staff apartment I keep for emergencies. It's yours now." Her father gasped. "Ozzy, that's no debate." Then he added something that made Emily collapse into tears again. "And tomorrow morning, you start your first day not as a server." She froze. What do you mean?" Ozzy smiled. "You're going to school, love. Full scholarship. I already called the dean." Emily nearly fell to her knees. Her father whispered, "Emily, your dream, your dream." She shook violently. Why are you doing all this for me?" Ozzy placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said, "Because you remind me of the person I wish I had beside me when I was your age." Emily sobbed. Her father sobbed, and Ozzy, for the first time that night, let a tear fall too. The final line, the moment that ended out as they held each other, Ozzy whispered a line that would become the heart of your video. "You're not alone anymore, not while I'm still breathing." Emily buried her face in his chest. Her father whispered prayer, and Ozzy Osbourne walked out of that hospital knowing he had changed a life forever. But what he didn't know was this. Emily would go on to become one of the most successful restaurant owners in L.A., and she would name her restaurant. The silent cry dedicated to the night a stranger heard her tears and chose to stay. If this story touched your heart, prove your love for Ozzy Osbourne. Subscribe to Voices of Darkness. Like this video, share with your friends, and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers.